There are names in history that are not remembered for greatness, but for a tragedy so brief that it haunts. Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of Henry VIII, is one such name. She was just a 17-year-old girl when she stepped onto the throne, hailed by the entire court as a symbol of youth, beauty, and vitality that the aging king desired. But in the blink of an eye, from the height of queenship, Catherine fell straight into the abyss of disgrace, betrayal, and the painful death on the scaffold. What turned an innocent girl into the center of a Tudor tragedy? Was Catherine merely a victim of youthful impulsiveness, or was she truly involved in a dark political conspiracy orchestrated by the Howard family? That question makes her story an enigma that has never ceased to provoke debate. Welcome back to Channel History. Today we will embark on the journey of Catherine Howard, from an unknown girl to queen, only to end her life before reaching the age of 19. This is not just a story of love, power, and betrayal, but also a brutal reminder that in the Tudor court, a single wrong step could cost one's life. Was Catherine the bold mastermind or merely a small pawn in the ruthless game of power? Let's search for the answer. Catherine Howard was born into a noble family, but one that was not wealthy. Her parents left her to be raised by the Howard family, and from an early age, Catherine lived in the house of the Duke of Norfolk. It was not a strict environment, but one filled with indulgence. The young girls there grew up with little supervision, often engaging in frivolous activities, and Catherine became caught up in that whirlwind. Her childhood was not glorious, not meticulously cared for like a noblewoman, but filled with a blend of innocence and impulsiveness. It was during these years that Catherine had misguided romantic relationships, leaving marks that were hard to erase. These secrets, which seemed to be merely youthful mistakes, would become the fateful chains that bound her to tragedy later on. A major turning point occurred when Catherine was brought to the court to become a lady-in-waiting to Queen Anne of Cleves. In the royal court, her beauty and youth shone brightly. No one expected that the girl who had been forgotten in a poor family would catch the eye of Henry VIII, and thus the path to the throne began to open, along with the dark shadows that awaited. When Catherine Howard appeared in the court as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Anne of Cleves, no one imagined that in such a short time her life would be completely transformed. Henry VIII, by then over 40, overweight, in poor health, and with a gloomy soul after many failed marriages, saw in Catherine, a 17-year-old girl full of youth, radiance, and vitality, a spark that reignited his heart. Catherine's appearance was like a breath of fresh air to the aging king. Henry saw in her not only beauty, but an opportunity to regain the confidence and strength of his lost youth. The court quickly turned this marriage into a political tool, and the Howard family saw it as a resounding victory, elevating their name to a position of power. Catherine became queen amidst admiration and envy. A girl who once went unnoticed now stood side by side with the most powerful king in Europe. But this throne was not only adorned with gold and silver, it also concealed deadly traps. For while Catherine received the crown, she also stepped into a dangerous game where every move could lead to death. Catherine Howard's tragic story is a haunting reminder of the unforgiving nature of the Tudor court. At just 17 years old, she was thrust into the royal spotlight as Henry VIII's fifth wife, a young woman praised for her beauty and vitality. But beneath the youthful exuberance, her past, marked by reckless youthful indiscretions, would soon come back to haunt her in the most devastating way. Catherine's rise from obscurity to queen was swift, but so was her fall from grace, a fall that would end with her execution before the age of 20. Catherine Howard's past relationships became her undoing. Before entering the royal court, she had an affair with Francis Dereham, a man with no noble title, which she considered a youthful folly. But in the rigidly controlled world of the Tudor court, even such past mistakes could be turned into weapons of betrayal. When Catherine's relationship with Dereham was exposed, it was enough to tarnish her reputation, despite her new role as queen. Even more damning was her involvement with Thomas Culpeper, a young courtier, which was seen as a blatant act of infidelity. These secretive liaisons, although never fully proven to be more than flirtations, were enough to spark a cascade of events that led to her tragic end. The question that lingers in history is whether Catherine was merely a naive, reckless young woman, or if she was a pawn in a deeper political game orchestrated by her ambitious family. Some historians argue that Catherine, raised in a family with little regard for strict discipline, was simply a victim of her youthful passions and lack of foresight. She didn't understand the perilous nature of her actions in a court where every gesture could become a weapon against her. However, there is also a perspective that Catherine was used as a tool by the powerful Howard family, who sought to elevate their status by placing her on the throne. Could her affairs have been manipulated to destabilize her position and remove her from power, or were they simply the result of a young woman's reckless heart? As rumors and whispers about Catherine's past reached the ears of Henry VIII, his anger boiled over. For a king as obsessed with loyalty as Henry, the thought of betrayal from his young wife was an unbearable blow. Catherine, once seen as the embodiment of youth and renewal, became a symbol of treachery in his eyes. The revelation of her past relationships turned from personal scandal to political liability, and soon the court was in turmoil. Francis Dereham and Thomas Culpeper were arrested and accused of treason, and Catherine was dragged into the brutal storm of royal retribution. Despite her pleas and the desperate hope for leniency, Catherine's fate was sealed. In 1542, at the age of just 19, she was executed by beheading at the Tower of London. The tragic end of her life was not just the personal heartbreak of a young woman, but a reflection of the terrifying volatility of the Tudor court. A single misstep, no matter how small, could be enough to bring down even the most exalted of queens. Catherine Howard's life and death served as a stark reminder of the high cost of power, beauty, and youthful passion in the unforgiving world of Tudor England. The story of Catherine Howard leaves a mark that is both tragic and haunting in Tudor history. She ascended to the throne with youth and beauty, but left the world before reaching 20, leaving behind an image full of contradictions, a beautiful queen remembered for betrayal and death. The briefness of her life makes Catherine's name forever a symbol of the fragility of power. Catherine's legacy does not lie in political achievements or long-lasting influence, but in the harsh lesson her story reflects. In the Tudor court, the throne was never a place for innocent love or naivete. It was a cold, calculating game where every step had a price. Catherine may have simply been a young girl caught in that whirlwind, or perhaps a pawn in the hands of an ambitious family. Regardless, her outcome reminds future generations that power comes with peril, and weakness will be ruthlessly devoured. Catherine Howard, through her tragic death, became a vivid testament to a truth. In the Tudor court, beauty can open the door to power, but it can also become a death sentence. The story of Catherine Howard ends like a brief but haunting tragedy, where youth, love, and power blend into a death sentence. From an unknown girl, she became the Queen of England, only to end her life on the scaffold before reaching 20. This rapid transformation means that Catherine is remembered not for what she built, but for what she lost. Catherine's death is a brutal reminder that the Tudor throne was never forgiving. A single misstep, a seemingly harmless emotional stir, could become the reason for a life lost. She may have been just a naive young girl, or perhaps a pawn in the hands of the Howard family, but whatever the case, her fate reflects the harshness of the era. In a place where power reigns, the heart has no voice. Catherine Howard has gone, leaving future generations with an unresolved question. Was she guilty or merely a victim? Perhaps the full answer will never be known, but it is this ambiguity that makes her tragedy one of the most tearful chapters in Tudor history. So what do you think? Do you believe Catherine Howard was truly an innocent girl caught in the whirlpool of power, or did she genuinely betray Henry VIII? Share your thoughts in the comments below for everyone to discuss. And don't forget to subscribe to Channel History to keep supporting us in bringing more compelling and emotional historical stories in the upcoming episodes.